بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد جزا الله عنا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم بما هو أهله اللهم صل وسلم أشرف الصلاة والتسليم على سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. First and foremost, I would like to welcome everyone for taking out the time on a Friday evening to come to the masjid and grace us with your presence. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is allowing us to conduct these gatherings once again. So we are eternally grateful to Rabbul Alameen subhanahu wa ta'ala that He is allowing us to do these things. Inshallah, today we have a very special guest speaker with us today who will be speaking to us, who will be addressing us, and who will be teaching us, inshallah. That is, Sheikh Abdul Rahman is someone that is very familiar with our community, who our community is very familiar with. We are familiar with his family, we know his brothers. I think pretty much all the brothers except maybe one have visited us at some point in the past. And we're very fortunate that he has taken out the time out of his extremely busy schedule to be here with us today. Sheikh Abdul Rahman, he's here with us today. And tomorrow he is going to Chicago. The next day he is going to San Francisco. And then the next day he's going to Dallas. So he's not going home for a few days from now. So we're very grateful that he took out the time to make his way to our area and speak to us, inshallah. Sheikh Abdul Rahman, at a very young age, he showed signs, he showed a zeal for dini knowledge that was related to Islam, related to our beautiful religion. And at a very young age, his parents took the initiative to push him and to urge him and to guide him in pursuing that zeal. At a very young age, he ended up going to madrasa. Actually, we both started at the same madrasa, even though he finished at a different place. We started at the same place. And he went to a madrasa, he memorized the Quran in just about a year or so. And afterwards, he went on to finish his ulum, the Alamiya course, the Dars Nizami course, and he attained his Alamiya certification from there. After that, he made his way to Pakistan and he enrolled in Binori Town Madrasa. And he did his iftah, he did takhassus, his specialization in fiqh there as well. After that, since having completed that, he has established a madrasa and a school in Michigan. That is it's coming up with a new name. So right now it's Michigan Islamic Institution, right? And inshallah, it will be known by a new name very soon. He's the principal there. He's the director of their academic affairs, as well as one of the co-founders of Miftah Institute, which really took off, especially in the COVID days where we were benefiting from their lectures and benefiting from their live series. So we're very fortunate that Sheikh Abdul Rahman is here. Alhamdulillah, I personally, on a personal note, I have known him for quite some time as well. And they say that you meet Mubarak people in Mubarak places. You meet blessed people in blessed places. So just this past March, I was sitting down with, I think it was Harith. It was Harith and Nabil, Hafiz Nabil and Hafiz Harith. We were sitting down in Masjid Nabawi. We're sitting down and we're just doing our adhkar. We're talking a little bit. And in the distance, we see Sheikh Abdul Rahman walking by with some of his students. And, I rushed to go and say salam to him. And alhamdulillah, meeting the people is good. Meeting people you love is better. Or meeting people you love in places that you love is the very best. So alhamdulillah, we are here and he is here with us. So let's give our undivided attention to him for the next hour or so. And let's learn from him and let's benefit from him, inshallah, for the time that he is here with us. Inshallah, without further ado, Sheikh Abdul Rahman.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh Noman knows more about me than I know about myself. MashaAllah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nasalli ala rasulihi al-Kareem. Amma ba'd. قال الله عز وجل في كتاب العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا تمدن عينيك إلى ما متعنا به أزواجا منهم زهرة الحياة الدنيا لنفتنهم فيه ورزق ربك خير وأبقى وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام خصلتان من كانتا فيه كتبه الله شاكرا وصابرا ومن لم تكونا فيه لم يكتبه الله شاكرا ولا صابرا من نظر في دينه إلى من هو فوقه فاقتدى به ونظر في دنياه إلى من هو دونه فحمد الله على ما فضله به كتبه الله شاكرا وصابرا ومن نظر في دينه إلى من هو دونه ونظر في دنياه إلى من هو فوقه فأسف على ما فاته منه لم يكتبه الله شاكرا ولا صابرا رواه الترمذي وصححه. My dear brothers, friends, sisters in Islam, today I'm going to speak about, I saw the topic when I was walking in. So, I'm going to talk about it from a different angle. There's this illness that is pretty widespread. Most of us in this room, including myself and Sheikh Noman, have this illness. And the name of this illness is myopia. Myopia, I'm not a doctor, but I'm not going to talk about what myopia is in detail. Myopia is when your far sight is weak and your nearsightedness is strong. So you can see what's right in front of you, but you can't see what's. So who's heard of myopia before? There's doctors here or no? Yeah, it's not rocket science. Your far sight is weak, so you have to wear glasses or contacts, and your near sight is perfect, so you can see this right in front of you. And by 2050, they say about 5 billion people in the world will be suffering from myopia. So as widespread and as fast as this illness, for whatever reason it is spreading, it is true that spiritual myopia is much, much faster spreading than that. What is spiritual myopia? فَإِنَّهَا لَا تَعْمَلَ بَصَارَ وَلَكِنْ تَعْمَلْ قُلُوبَ الَّتِي فِي الصُّدُورِ. What does that even mean? Imagine the lens, just like we have eyes right here, we have eyes in our heart. And when we can't see with our eyes properly that are on our heads, we can't see, and we have to wear glasses to see farsighted. Imagine if our eyes in our heart, which Allah is not going to judge us by the eyes over here. Allah is going to judge us by the eyes in our heart. What did the heart see? Imagine the eyes that are there are not functioning and they suffer from myopia. You have your phone, right? Or an iPad. And you take a picture and you zoom it all the way in. And you zoom it on Google Maps all the way to your house. Imagine right now suffering from spiritual myopia. All you see is your house. And the picture is completely distorted. You zoom out a bit, then you see your neighborhood. You zoom out a bit more, then you see your city. You zoom out a bit more, you see your country. Like that, you see the entire world. Islam came and Deen came to actually make us zoom out a bit. So we can see the world for what it is. See difficulties for what they are. See pain for what they are. See happiness for what they are. See money for what they are. See everything for what they are. Nothing is a coincidence. Nothing. And if you understand that, then the worst of conditions that you're in, you can see beyond that. You can see beyond that. Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, and I'm going to give you in the next, you see, he said teach. I don't like the word teaching, but yes, we do teach in our institution. So I'm just going to give you, 7 or 8 or 9 stories about these issues and examples. And at the end of this entire session, which is going to be half an hour, I'm going to ask all of you for a few minutes, reflect over what I said, and then tell me what I said. Okay? Is that fine? Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, radiyallahu anhu, he used to, all of his children passed away when they were babies. All of them. He never had children. The children wouldn't live. So one after the other would pass away. We lost one brother. We have 5 brothers. We lost one brother, the youngest one. And trust me, no mother's shoulders are strong enough to carry her own son to the grave. No way. The same mother who had to suffer the pain of labor is now suffering the pain of departure is very difficult. Fatima radiallahu anha, she was healthy. She was completely healthy when the Prophet left this world. But the pain of losing her father made her pass away 6 months after. She couldn't live in this world without her father. They say that Abu Bakr anhu, he had two sabab al-maut. Two. Allama Sha'bi rahmatullah, he says, ماذا نتوقع من هذه الدنيا الدنيا. This is a very powerful statement. And it also talks about the lens. He said, how can we have any expectations from this lowly dunya and its people? How can we have any expectations from people? وَقَدْ سُمَّ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ وَسُمَّ Abu Bakr. When the Prophet was poisoned to death, and Abu Bakr was also poisoned to death. Imagine, they were both poisoned. They're the best people to walk on the face of the earth, and someone still found a reason to poison them. You're not good enough for wrong people, I'll tell you that for sure. You will never be good enough for the wrong person. There's always going to be a reason. So, he said, what can we expect from this dunya? They poisoned the Prophet ﷺ, and they poisoned Abu Bakr. So one reason he passed away was that. And the second, كان سبب موته موت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. That Allama Suyuti rahmatullah, he says that the reason he passed away was his longing to be with the Prophet ﷺ. He missed him so much. He couldn't live without him. So it is difficult, very difficult. But this Sahabi, he's one son after the other, he's losing. And someone comes up to him, he says, Ya Aba Dhar, la yabqa laka walad. He says, no son, no child, you don't get to see them grow up. You know what he said? Look at their lens of their heart. He says, Alhamdulillah, alladhi ya'khuduhum fi dar al-fana wa yaddakhiruhum fi dar al-baqa. All praises to Allah, who takes them from me in this temporary world and preserves them for me in akhirah. Not the other way around. Takes them from me now, khalas. And then preserves them for me in akhirah. Urwa bin Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala, he left Medina Munawwara with his youngest son as a royal guest in the Banu Umayyah Khilafah in Iraq. So on his way out, everyone came out to meet him, Urwa bin Mas'ud. So the first name is Abu Dhar, second Abu Urwa. He goes there. While he was there, his son was playing. His son was young, teenager. He was playing in the stable of horses. And a horse jumped on him and he passed away. During this stay, a disease, he had this illness in his foot. His right leg had to be amputated. So when he comes back to Medina and people come out to receive him, they see this man that left walking is coming back being carried. And not with his son by his side. So imagine when they're looking at this, like, look, this man is going through so much pain. Kitni takleef hai? Iqbal says, tu bacha bacha ke narak ise. Tera aina hai wo aina, ki shikasta ho, to aziz tar hai nigah aaye nasaj mein. Do you understand what that means? No? Very powerful statement. He did not suffer from myopia, this man. He says, Tu bacha bacha ke narak ise, tera aina hai wo aina. He says, don't sit here and try to protect your heart. And I know you think it's fragile. Like imagine you have a glass. He's giving example of aina because the Prophet said Mirat al-Mu'min. He used to take words from hadith. So he said your heart is like this fragile glass, and you should be protecting a glass that it doesn't break. And if a glass breaks, it loses its value. He says the opposite is with your heart. The more it breaks, the more closer it is to Allah. The more it breaks. So with your eyes, oh man, this person did this to me, this person did this to me. No, but the more it breaks, أَنَا عِنْدَ مُنْكَسَرَةِ الْقُلُوبِ. Allah says, if you want to know where I am, I'm next to the hearts of those who are broken. So don't worry about it. Not a big deal. Let your heart break in this world. Allah will be next to it. Allah is there. So he comes back and people ask Urwa, they said, Urwa, what happened? You know what he says? He wanted to give a message to us. He raises his hands He says, Allahumma innahu kana li banun arba'a. Oh Allah, I had 4 sons. فَأَخَذْتَ مِنِّي وَاحِدْ وَأَبْقَيْتَ لِي ثَلَاثَةً. You took 1 and you kept 3 with me. أَخَذْتَ مِنِّي وَاحِدْ. You took 1 and أَبْقَيْتَ لِي ثَلَاثَةً. أَبْقَى means to preserve. And pay attention to my words. And you preserved 3 for me, meaning I still have 3. Allahumma innahu kana li atraf arba'a. Oh Allah, I had atraf. Tarf is the stretched limbs of a body. You have 2 arms and 2 legs, that's why it's called tarf. And you have 4 atraf. Oh Allah, I had 4 stretched limbs, 2 arms and 2 legs. فَأَخَذْتَ مِنِّي وَاحِدًا. You took 1 from me. وَأَبْقَيْتَ لِي ثَلَاثَةً. And you kept 3. وَيْمَ اللَّهِ وَيْمَ اللَّهِ وَيْمَ اللَّهِ وَمَا أَخَذْتَ فَلَقَدْ أَبْقَيْتَ. He said, oh Allah, I swear by Allah, I swear by Allah, I swear by Allah, that which you took, indeed you have preserved. What I have is not preserved. What you took is preserved. Because what I have, see, what I gave is what I have. What I spent, I had. What I kept, I lost. Does that make sense? What I gave, I actually have. I'll give you another example of that. Uthman bin Mad'un, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was the first Sahabi, Muhajir, to be buried in Jannat al-Baqiyah. It's the first time people saw the Prophet crying when someone passed away. His head was in the Prophet's lap and the Prophet cried so much. And he buried him with his own hands. He was in front of the Kaaba. He was a beautiful Sahabi. He was in front of the Kaaba. And one poet, he said, his name was Labid, he says, أَلَا كُلُّ شَيْءٍ مَا خَلَى اللَّهُ بَاطِلٍ. He said, everything other than Allah is null and void. And Abu Bakr once said, this is the most truthful statement of a sha'ir, that everything other than Allah is null and void. So this person who was sitting there, he said, Sadaqta, you spoke the truth. Then he says, وَكُلُّ نَعِيمٍ لَا مَحَالَةَ زَائِلٍ. And every bounty, one day will come to an end. There is truth to the statement that bounties of this dunya will come to an end. But he said, كَذَبْتَ. He said, you're lying. فَإِنَّ نَعِيمَ الْجَنَّةِ لَا يَزُولُ. Right? The bounties of Jannah will never end. And people of Makkah did not believe in Akhirah. That was the biggest problem they had. They never believed in Akhirah. So فَإِنَّ نَعِيمَ الْجَنَّةِ لَا يَزُولُ. He said, he put him on the spot. At this point, Islam and the Muslims were still in secret. They were not i'lan. They were not announcing the fact that they're Muslims yet. So when he said this, people said, oh, this is the person who is, he has the magic spell of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So people jumped him. And he was one person and there were so many people there. They jumped him. And one person, while the skirmish was going on, took a dagger and put it through his eye. And he had beautiful eyes. And one of his eyes became blind for the rest of his life. So his uncle, who was the father of Khalid, so Walid bin Mughira, he says to him, I'm omitting the Arabic of the story, but the main part I'll say the Arabic. He says to him, Ya ibn ammi, inna aynaka laghanitun amma asabaha. So my nephew, your eye did not deserve what you put it through. It did not deserve it. Why did you put your eye through this for? He looks at his uncle, he says, Ya ammi, inna ayna sahih, inna ayna sahiha, laghaniyatun ila mithli ma asaba ukhtaha fi sabilillah. He says, ye aankh jo jisse main dekh sakta hoon, wo rush kar rahi hai aaj. It's envious of the eye that cannot see, wishing it could be the eye that cannot see, because the eye that cannot see was given for Allah. It's gone. Allah accepted it. One time, Umar al-Khattab anhu walked into the room. There was a Sahabi by the name of Amr bin Tufail bin Amr al-Dawsi. Tufail bin Amr al-Dawsi is a great Sahabi. He asked Allah for Shahada, and he was shaheed in the battle of Yamama. His son was next to him, Amr. And while protecting his father, his arm was cut. So he had an open wound. And at that time, there was no treatment for open wounds. It would be bleeding. So Amr bin Tufail then also became shaheed in the battle of Yarmouk. So father became shaheed in the battle of Yamama, and son became shaheed in the battle of Yarmouk. So he was sitting down after this battle. The battle of Yamama was a very fierce battle. Many Sahaba passed away as a shaheed in this battle. And they come to Medina, and Umar ibn Khattab walks into the room. Now, you walk into the room, and this young man is sitting there with blood coming out of his arm. You know, sometimes you sit with somebody and their nose is running and their hands are dirty, so you get a little bit disgusted to eat with them. So this person, he realized that Umar ibn Khattab is coming, so he moves away and he sits a little bit far. Umar bin Khattab, who's afras al-nas, he was such a smart person. He looks at him and he said, لِمَاذا تَنَحَّيْتَ عَنِّي? He said, why are you moving away? And he realized why, because he did not want to discuss Umar ibn Khattab. Umar ibn Khattab, he says, وَاللَّهِ لَا أَكُلُ مِنْ هَذِهِ الْقَصَعَ حَتَّى تَأْكُلُ مِنْهَا. He said, Wallah, I'm not going to eat from this plate until you eat from it too. And then what does he say? What does he say? He said, وَاللَّهِ مَا فِي الْقَوْمِ أَحَدٌ بَعْضُهُ فِي الْجَنَّةِ غَيْرَكَ. He said, oh, I swear by Allah, there is not a single person sitting in this room, a portion of whose is already in Jannah. You are the honor of this gathering. You are the pride of this gathering. When Ali ibn Abi Talib who was on the member, and he was taking bay'ah, the first person who stood up to give him bay'ah was Talha bin Ubaidillah. Talha bin Ubaidillah got up to give him bay'ah when he became Khalifa, and he put his left hand in the hands of Ali bin Abi Talib. All good things you do with your right hand. Okay? He put his left hand. Now, when the youngsters, so there's youngsters sitting here, I remember coming to this masjid long time ago, and there's many elders and seniors who made effort to establish this community. What happens in Islam is not like this army. In the army, everywhere you go, first you're colonel, then major, then general, then brigadier, you know? So you have these badges. So people can actually see, oh, this person's a senior. In Islam, our deeds, Allah knows. And we don't show our badges. We don't say, I know, and people shouldn't be doing that either. So youngsters come later and they don't realize the effort that the elders made before them. And they don't acknowledge it. Ibn al-Qayyim, he says, Allah has hidden His pleasure in good deeds. Which good deed? You don't know. Do all of them. And Allah has hidden His wilayah, His friendship and ibad, and the people. Who's a friend of Allah? You don't know. So you have to treat everyone good. How about if you mistreat one of the friends of Allah? And they're not walking around with Am Waliullah. Anyone could be the friend of Allah. So that's why you have to treat everyone good. So there's elders over here that maybe I know, but maybe before me people know. And people, this is a natural phenomenon in life where the youngsters, so this is where I'm young just like you guys. We kind of ignore and we discount. Hamare elders, aslaf, buzurg. Yeah, the people that did a lot of work before us. This same thing happened that day. Imagine that. Same thing happened in that gathering. Ali was there. Talha bin Ubaidillah gets up. The youngsters in the back like, who's this guy? They say, oh, old man, have some respect. You put your left hand in the hand of Ali, put your right hand in the hand of Ali. So Ali bin Abi Talib gets up and he hugs him. And he looks at the people behind. He says, how dare you say that? How dare you say that? He said, don't you know that the day of Uhud was known as the day of Talha? ذَاكَ يَوْمُ Talha. Don't you know that Talha bin Ubaidillah, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the Prophet said, who wants to see a shaheed walking on the face of the earth, look at Talha. He's a zinda shaheed. Why? Because the Prophet when he got up to Mount Uhud, and he was right in front of him was a mountain, he turned around. At this point, he was at a higher vantage point than everybody else, so they could clearly see him. And all the pain and all the bodily damage the Prophet suffered was at that moment when he jumped up to escape. And he turned around and now everyone's in front of him. Right in front of him are all the non-Muslims. Behind him is a mountain. And the cave is on the other side. And everyone started throwing things. That's when his mouth became injured. And he fell and became unconscious. But at this point, from the group of kuffar, one person jumps up and he has armor. His face was covered. And he comes and he's facing this way. And you know what the Prophet says? Sheikh al-Hadith, he says something very interesting about this incident. He says, the Prophet, right when he walks up, jumps up, he doesn't know who this is. But the Prophet says, Kun Talha. Kun Talha means, oh Allah, I hope this is Talha. What do you say? I hope this is Talha. Imagine that. Because he knew Talha would give his life for him. So Hazrat Sheikh says, Sare Sahaba murid the, lekin do murad the. Murid means the one who seeks, and murad means the one who is sought. Is all the Sahaba were murid, but there was two murad, Umar bin Khattab and Talha bin Ubaidullah. The Prophet sought them out. Said, Kun Talha, I wish this is Talha. And Talha turns around and he sees arrows coming at the face of the Prophet ﷺ, and he takes his right hand and he puts it in front of him. And his entire arm becomes paralyzed for the rest of his life. So he couldn't move his arm for the rest of his life. Then he carries the Prophet on his back. His entire back gets pelted with like gunshot wounds, literally. So this same person, I don't know, saying that this person's hand was shaheed protecting the Prophet ﷺ. That's why he can't raise his right hand. You don't know that. You don't know that. When the Prophet ﷺ came to his house, with the eye, he asked Aisha, we had an animal that was cut. How much is left of it? ما بقي منها ما بقي كلها غيره بقي كلها غير كتفيها. The Prophet ﷺ said, Aisha said that, Ya Rasulullah, everything is done. The only thing that remains is the shoulder. And the Prophet said, that's what you can see with your eyes. But really what remains, the entire animal remains except for the shoulder. Because everything else was given for Allah. And what actually remains is that which was given for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, this is a very, very close story to my heart. His brother passed away. And he started crying. And it's interesting, if you maybe next time we come, Sheikh Imam, we can do it. But you know what's very important is to actually read and study the riqaq, the emotional moments of the Prophet ﷺ to soften our hearts. Because our hearts have become so hard. Jumud al-ayn min qaswat al-qalb. The eyes becoming dry is a sign the heart is hard. وَقَسْوَةُ الْقَلْبِ مِنْ كَثْرَةِ الذُّنُوبِ. The heart becomes hard because of excessive sins. وَكَثْرَةُ الذُّنُوبِ مِنْ طُولِ الْأَمَلِ. And a person commits a lot of sins because he or she thinks they have a long time. They can do tawbah later. وَطُولُ الْأَمَلِ مِنْ شِدَّةِ الْحِرْصِ. And this longing for more is from this desire to get more. شِدَّةِ الْحِرْص, both haris. وَشِدَّةُ الْحِرْص مِنْ حُبِّ الدُّنْيا. And this is from love of dunya. وَحُبُّ الدُّنْيا رَأْسُ كُلِّ خَطِيئَةٍ. And this is the root of all evils. Abu Bakr anhu, he was sitting down. SubhanAllah, I just thought about this. He was sitting down, and after the Prophet passed away, and people from Yemen came to accept Islam. And they accepted Islam. And after they accepted Islam, Abu Bakr anhu said, sit there in that corner. And he told one of his people in this gathering, go and read Quran to him. You see, now when you come to the masjid, you see the mushaf, you see Qurans. So when you actually see something so much, you become so used to it. Is it right or wrong? When you see something so much, you hear something so much, you get used to it. You become immune to it. May Allah never make us immune to good things and make it normal. I remember when I went to New Zealand, Christchurch, that was the first time in my life I seen bodies of shuhada. First time I smelt a shaheed. They talk about the smell of a shaheed? First time. First time I seen gunshot wounds in a human being's body. That was shaheed praying salah. And we landed there in Christchurch, we saw the bodies, some of them we did ghusl. And after the whole, the first part, we were traveling for 3 days. Everyone was hungry. We were walking by this place called Nando's, which is halal in New Zealand. My entire group of people that were with me, they went to Nando's to eat food. Wallahi, since it was my first time seeing this, I did not have an appetite for 2 days. I couldn't eat. But for them to see it all the time, so it wasn't a big deal. You know how doctors, they see people? So for them, they get so used to it. And that's why, when you go Hajj or Umrah, Sheikh Numan can do this. I told some of the scholars this. I think I do this every single time I go. So when you go there, the first time you see the Kaaba, nothing like that. Am I right? But honestly, that wasn't true about the Sahaba. Because every time they saw the Kaaba, they felt the exact same way. Imagine the Prophet sitting in front of you, you keep looking at him, keep looking, you used to look at him. That never happened. Every time they saw Wasim, he was Wasim. Every time you looked at him, he looked more beautiful. You wanted to look at him even more. لو لم تكن له آية مبينة لكان منظره يأتيك بالخبر. Hassan bin Thabit said, Allah anhu, that if he never brought down any signs, he never even spoke, the moment you looked at his beautiful face, you would accept Islam. Just looking at his face. So I say, like, you go to Mecca, when you take people who went for the first time and you walk in with them, what is very powerful for your iman is to look at the faces of those who are looking at the Kaaba for the first time. Looking at their faces, they're crying, they're adults. जैसे ही सबसे गुंबद नजर आएगा, बंदगी का करीना बदल जाएगा. सर झुकाने की फुर्सत मिलेगी किसे? खुद ही पलकों से सजदे टपक जाएंगे. I mean, what a beautiful poem by a person named, his name was Professor Iqbal Azim, he was blind. Rahmatullah, Allama Iqbal. The best poetry written about Medina is by this man in any language. And he was blind, he never saw Medina. Someone asked him, if Allah gave you eyesight back, what would you want? You know what he said? I would ask for three things. One is to see the green dome. Second is to see the Kaaba. And third is to see any place in the Quran Allah says, أَفَلَا يَنظُرُونَ. Do they not look towards this? I would want to see how it looks. I've never seen the sky. I believe in it. I haven't seen the camel. I haven't seen these things. But I would love to see these three things. So he said, a person when he sees the green dome, like how can he should fall in sajda. He should. But rather than him actually falling in sajda, his tears are falling in sajda. So it's sufficient. So Abu Bakr anhu, he sees these people, he makes them sit there, and I was talking about the Mus'haf. Do you know, people never seen the Quran before. The first time they actually saw the Quran in Kufa, the moment the Quran was brought, it was brought by 18 people. They picked it up because it was so heavy, it was a big Quran. They brought it to the masjid, everyone started crying. هذا كتاب الله, هذا كلام ربي, هذا كتاب الله. And today we see it everywhere, so it doesn't do the same thing to us. So there was no book form. So Abu Bakr said to the person, he said, teach him Quran. So in those days, Quran was taught from chest to chest. So he said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم, الحمد لله رب العالمين. He starts reading Surah Fatiha. And now imagine these people, they're hearing the Quran being recited to them for the first time, and they missed the life of the Prophet by a few days. Kitne dukhi honge. How much pain they were in that they walked all the way from Yemen, traveled to see the Prophet and he wasn't there. And they had to accept Islam on the hands of Abu Bakr anhu. So they went through so much. Allama Sha'bi says this, Hazrat Shaykh mentions it in Fadail Hajj. He says that Allama Sha'bi was traveling and he saw a person, he was paralyzed and he was traveling on his back like this. He couldn't walk. Apahajta. And he asked him in the middle of a desert, he said, where are you going? Ila ayn? He said, Ila Makkah. He said, to Makkah. He says, how long have you been traveling for? Like this? How long have you been traveling for? You know what he said? 7 years. How many years? 7. They saw something else. And then Allama Sha'bi said, isn't that a far distance? He says, the moment I see the Kaaba, I'll forget about my pain. Forget it. Khatam ho jayega. So Abu Bakr who made this person recite Quran, now they're hearing it and they're crying. And Abu Bakr said, when he saw them crying, hearing the Quran, you know what he said? And wallahi, he doesn't have to say this because it's not true about him. But he said it for us. He said, هَكَذَا كُنَّا ثُمَّ قَسَتِ الْقُلُوبِ. We were just like this, then we became used to it. Hum bhi aise the. Then our hearts became hard and we became used to it. But it is not right for him. We cannot think that he said about himself. But he felt that. He actually felt that this is how we were when we first heard the Quran. So, why did I mention all this? Because hearing these stories about the Prophet ﷺ and having maybe Sheikh Nu'man talk about these things, sometimes talking about too much masail and technical things, it doesn't soften the heart. So Abdullah Mas'ud, whose brother passed away and he was crying. And someone said to him, You're crying? Come on, man, be tough. He says, كَانَ أَخِي فِي النَّسَبِ. That was my brother. That's my brother. وَصَاحِبِي مَعْ رَسُولَ السَّلَامِ. And he was my companion. One, not only is my brother, but we did the same thing. We had two rishtas. We were brothers and we were companions. Some sahaba the. So he says, but he had his lens and his heart completely clear, 20/20 vision. He says, لَأَنْ يَمُوتَ فَأَحْتَسِبُهُ أَحَبَّ إِلَيَّ مِنْ أَنْ أَمُوتَ فَيَحْتَسِبُنِي. He said, Wallahi, I would rather have him die first and I get the reward of being patient than I die first and he gets the reward of patience. Because they saw the reward beyond the pain. They saw that it's all good. We see with these eyes temporary pain, but they took temporary pain for an everlasting gain all day. And today we flipped it around. We all day will make this transaction of the temporary gain for an everlasting pain. You know, someone gets mad and you just, boom. It's what happens. Has anyone in the history of mankind been proud of themselves saying something in anger? Ever? Kabhi nahi hota. Has anyone won an argument when you've argued? Never happens. So you, laysa shadidu bis-sur'a. The Prophet said, you with your eyes can see a person who speaks, yells, ye taqwa banda hai. This guy is a strong person. He said, but with the eyes of the heart, إنما الشديد الذي يملك نفسه عند الغضب. Is that person who's humble even though they can do something. They're humble. ليس الغنى عن كثرة العرض. With the eyes you think a person who has more is the one who's more rich. ولكن الغنى غنى النفس. Richness is in the heart. And I will conclude by saying that Imam Makhul, rahmatullah alayh, Sheikh Noman said, keep going. You said till 9:30. Oh, they're listening, that's why? So Imam Makhul, rahmatullah alayh, he listened to what he said. He was on his deathbed. Okay? Someone came to him and said, Ahsan Allah wa afitika ya Aba Abdullah. He said, Allah make you better. You know, sick, someone's sick. He said, Allah make you better. So what is better? For us, better would be that we come home. Right? Better would be that we come visit everybody. One of the authentic hadith about a person who's shaheed and he passes away, doesn't matter how much that person loves you, if Allah gives them the entire world and whatever it contains, for them to come back to their family, they will not accept it. Because what they have with Allah is much more. They will never accept it. So he said, Ahsan Allah afitika ya Abdullah, Allah make you better. So you know what he said? Sunni, listen to this. He said, Al-ilhaq biman yurja afuhu أحب إلي من أن أبين البقاء مع من لا يؤمن شره. He says that I get united with the being that I'm 100% hopeful that he will forgive me is better for me. So what's better? It's actually better for me to finally get united with him than to stay with people who I can never be saved from their evil. उनके में शर से कभी नहीं बच सकता. आज समझते हैं कि इज्जत क्या चीज़ है. You know, one of our elders, Mufti Zain al-Abidin Sahab, rahmatullah alayhi, the teacher of Sheikh Tariq Jamil Sahab, he says, one day I was traveling in Pakistan from Faisalabad to Lahore, and you know, in Pakistan, even in other countries, the politicians, when they travel, like they stop the entire road. पूरी सड़क बंद कर देते हैं. Like this dudes, mashallah, you know, whatever. I'm not going to say anything. So they stop the entire road. So now he has to get to Lahore, and he's right out of Faisalabad, and he says, the cops and everybody, they know me. You know, he's a big mufti of Faisalabad. They all recognize him. So he called one of them. He said, Kya ho raha hai yahan par? What's happening here? So he said, and this is a red carpet treatment. Everyone stopped waiting for the person to go by. He said, Abhi kutta aa raha hai. The dog is about to pass by. I said, what? He said, Abhi kutta aa raha hai. Kutte ke istiqbal mein hi ho raha hai. He kept saying that. The dog is coming. This is the red carpet reception for the dog. And as he's talking to Mufti Saab, the car of the politician starts going by. You know what he does? He stomps his foot and he does this to the guy. So Mufti Saab says, Ye hai izzat ka dhokha. This is what you see with your eyes, that this is respect. But the guy's calling him a dog, and the moment he goes by, he does this. So it's not what you see with your eyes. You sit next to a grave. What do you see? I go to my brother's grave all the time. What do you see? You see dirt. You see some graves with huge headstones, with all this writing. But you know what you should actually see when you look at that grave? You should remember Imam Makhul rahmatullah's statement. When you look at that grave, when you go to a janazah, you should actually go stand next to a grave before the body is put in. And remember the statement. Look at it. And he says, look, you're looking at it, small place, loneliness, darkness. He says, مَا مِن بَيْتٍ خَيْرٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِ مِنْ لَحَدِهِ. There is not a better home for a believer than the innermost portion of his grave. This is the most peaceful place for a believer. Hum samajhte hain. We look at it and say, whoa. But with a person who doesn't suffer from myopia, Habibi, this is not a big deal. This is what we're living for. This is what we want. Shimr and Hussein. You heard these names before? Shimr was a general in Karbala. Hussein radhiallahu anhu is standing. This is a beautiful couplet in Urdu. It makes my hair and my body stand when I say it. So he's standing there. If you hear the story, after his entire family is shaheed, basically nobody was moving forward to kill him because they were afraid. Like, we're going to be the ones who kill the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ. So no one had the courage to do it. At the end of the day, they had that small, in their iota, koi ghirati, koi sharam hayati. They had that little bit in their heart. So no one wanted to go forward, except for this man named Shimr. So, this poet, he speaks about this scenario where Hussein is sitting down like this, bloodied, tired, thirsty. Imagine he went to drink water because the water was on the other side of the battlefield. He went to drink water after days. They finally got to drink water before he just wanted to drink water before he passed away. And he gets the cup of water and he brings it close to his mouth, and Shimr shoots an arrow at his mouth. So he looks up and he says to them, he's like, and he couldn't drink water. He says, what kind of face will you show to my grandfather on the day of judgment when you deprive me of water over here? You think he's going to give you water there? Pani wahan milega? He couldn't drink water. He comes sit down. Now basically he's waiting for death. But no one's coming closer. So the poet says, "Main sar ba sajda hoon e Shimr." Because who already shot the arrow before? Shimr. He says, "Main sar ba sajda hoon e Shimr. Mujhko qatl bhi kar. Rihai de bhi ab is ahd Karbala se mujhe. Main sar ba sajda hoon e Shimr. Mujhko qatl bhi kar. Rihai de bhi ab is ahd Karbala se mujhe." And the poem starts with the mafaham mat na sikha. Jabr narwan se mujhe. Main sar ba kaf hoon. Lara de kisi bala se mujhe. So don't tell me to compromise. Oh, Arab? I'm sorry, man. I'll translate for you. He says, mafahamat means compromise. He says, don't tell me to compromise on my deen. Habibi, do this for sunnah, leave this. Don't tell me, mafahamat nasika. Don't come teach me the rules of compromising. I'm already ready to die. So I came out with the intention to give my life for Allah. You tell me to compromise? I went to Aqsa. There was an old man. His store is probably like this big right here. Not bigger than this. Aqsa, it's in the walls. I just went right now. Is on the walls of, and there's the whole area's compound is Aqsa. So this whole area, under this store, the Jews believe that there are some holy sites for them, because there's a city on top and there's a whole city at the bottom. So the Jews believe at the bottom of this store, there is that place that they're looking for, Dawud al-Islam, Sulaiman al-Islam's holy places. So this guy, the old man, they offer him billions of dollars. Billions. And these people are poor. They eat dates, drink water. They don't have no money. You know what they did? all the homes in Aqsa, they gave waqf to the awqaf. Because they know they will never sell it to them. But they're afraid their kids will sell it. So now they don't even own the homes they're living in. And we're here in America asking and trying to compromise on the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, it's okay, let's buy a house on interest. Maybe it's fine. Sorry, forgive me. We have no excuse. And they're giving up their own homes. Okay, nee, we're not going to do it because we don't want them to buy this house. And actually, there are many people who sold their house. Poor people had no choice. They had no money. You go to Khalil. Khalil is a masjid where Ibrahim as-Salam is buried. Half the masjid is gone to the Jews. You walk in, there's a masjid, mayar. You walk into the masjid, and half, they took the grave of Yusuf al-Islam. They took the grave of Yaqub al-Islam. You can't go there for ziyarah. Only 5 times of the year you can go. You can only go to the graves of other prophets, Ibrahim al-Islam. But you can't go. And there's a big barrier in between. All right? Why? Because people outside the masjid, they had no choice. They start selling their homes for millions of dollars. 10, 15, 20 million. They have all the money. We have Allah. And we don't compromise. So he says, Mafahamat nasika. That's what I'm saying. He says, I'm already ready. Well, I'm going to compromise on what? I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you compromise an inch now, you have to compromise a mile tomorrow. It doesn't end. Then he says, Mesar ba sajdahu e shimar. Oh Shimar, I'm in sajda waiting for the arrow. Mujhko qatl bhi kar. Go shoot it and free me from this world so I can finally go meet my family. So now the world, when they see with these eyes, they see a man who's victorious and a man who's defeated. But you and I both know who's victorious, who's defeated. Don't we? Right? The person who comes to stab Ali bin Abi Talib from the back with a poisoned dagger, right when he stabs Ali, what does he say? Najawtu Rabbil Kaaba. Wallahi, I'm victorious. How are you victorious? You're falling. But for them, that was victory. And that's what confused people. Khalid bin Walid told the Roman, Khalid bin Walid, what a man. Khalid bin Walid told the Roman emperor, he said, let me tell you the difference between us and you guys. He says, for you people, you guys come here. You guys come here. I wish I could say in Arabic, but forget it. You guys come here and to save your lives. And the one who comes to the battlefields, protects their life, saves their life, goes back, you make statues for that person. What a warrior. And the opposite is for us. We come here to give our lives. And the one who gives their lives, their families are honored in Medina. It's a big difference. Alhamdulillah, I'm the father of the shaheed. I'm the mother. My father, when he heard my brother passed away, one person, Palestinian with him, he said to him, Doctor, I'm the father of 7 shuhada. You're the father of 1 shaheed. I still beat you by 6. Perspective. So I conclude with this. Abdullah Mas'ud anhu, Imam Masruq was saying, Ma min baytin khayrun min lahdil. There's not a better place for a believer than his innermost portion of the grave. Why? يستريح فيه من ألم الدنيا وأمن من عذاب الله. He is now comforted from the elements of this dunya. Cold, hot, pain, difficulty, sickness, disease. Khalas, done. Yeah, the person who's on his deathbed, he's sick, he's old. The moment he passes away, he's 33 years old and no more sickness. Am I right or wrong? In that same place in New Zealand, we're at a grave site. There was a 14-year-old kid who passed away. His mom sat there the whole day until I went to see her. I said, what's wrong with you? You know, you should leave now. She said, I'm not going to leave until I have an answer for this question. I said, what's the question? He said, I asked many people, I'm not going to leave. What's the question? She said, is a shaheed going to be questioned in their grave? So I said, there's no sarih nas that a shaheed is not going to be questioned. But Allah will make his answer easy for him. He said, that's a problem. So why is that a problem? He said, because I also read in hadith that if you stutter answering the question, you get punished. And my son stutters when he speaks. He has speech impairment. It takes him 20 times, 30 times to say his own name. So imagine if an angel comes and asks Man Rabbuk and he stutters, he's going to get hit. And may Allah bless our I'll tell you one thing. All youngsters over here, Shark Tank guys, it's possible you can think of a business idea that no one has ever thought about. But you can never think of an ilmi idea that no one has thought about. You can never think about it. You can be saying, oh, I'm gonna write this book. Oh, it has not been written yet. And 20 minutes later, you'll find out someone has written it. Our ulama we have such a rich heritage and deen. I was sitting in Ramadan, I was like, all right, I got it. I got a book that I can guarantee no one has written. What is it? I would love to compile all the statements on the headstones of graves. Poems, statements, how powerful would they be? And then I found out there's a book. It's already a book. See, you understand? So, under this, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ, Mufassirin say that a human being, it doesn't matter how they're born, how they live, but the natural tabi'ah of a human being is 20/20 sight, perfect speech, perfect health. So right when they go in their grave, they have perfect everything. No speech impairment. So I told her that. If they're blind all their life, now they can see. And then she left. So he says, يَسْتَرِيحُ مِنْهُ مِنْ أَمَلِ الدُّنْيا مِنْ أَلَمِ الدُّنْيا. You're comforted from the problems of this dunya. وَأَمِنَ مِنْ عَذَابِ اللَّهِ. And now you're at peace from the punishment of Allah. Brothers and sisters in Islam, as this title was, if you see from your heart, then you realize nothing is a coincidence. I end with this idea. Ibrahim bin Adham was walking and he saw a man very stressed. You know, I'm not going to say our politician in Pakistan, what he says, Gabrana nahi. Right? But that's the truth. Never stress. Never. Never. There's no point. Because of this, listen to this statement. He sees a person all down like this, you know, stressed out. Ibrahim bin Adham says, whoa, what's wrong with you? Ajib an thalath. Give me an answer for 3 questions. All right, go ahead. He says, أَيَجْرِي فِي هَذَا الْكَوْنِ شَيْءٍ لَا يُرِيدُهُ اللَّهِ. Is it possible that something in this world can happen on coincidence? Something that Allah does not want? And what's the answer, guys? Yes or no? No way. Actually, no way. Kalla. He says, Kalla. Okay, you answer the first question. أَيُنْقَصْ مِنْ رِزْقِكَ شَيْءٌ قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ لَكَ. Is it possible that even a portion of your risk can be decreased that Allah has written for you? Is it possible? Kalla, never. It doesn't matter what my business partner did. It doesn't matter if someone stole my business idea. It doesn't matter if the people took my... It doesn't make a difference because الرزق يعرف عنوان رزقك وإن لم تعرف عنوانه. Rizq knows the address to your house, even if you don't know its address. 100%. That's our belief. Is your belief? 100% is our belief. So why are you stressed for? Okay, you lost some money, lost some stocks, who cares? It wasn't meant for me. इतनी सी आराम सी बात है. إن العبد لا يبلغ حقيقة الإيمان حتى يعلم أن ما أصابه لم يكن ليخطئه وما أخطأه لم يكن ليصيبه. Ubadah bin Samit on his deathbed, his son comes to him, he says, Dad, give me advice. On his deathbed, last words of his, Ya bunay, let me tell you something, my son. A believer can never reach the essence of Iman until he has this quality down. This are his last words in this world. What's the quality? That he or she understands that which happened could never have escaped. And that what escaped him never could have happened. Jab tak you don't have that down, you couldn't do anything. When my brother passed away, he had a small little HHR, Chevy HHR, such small, a car that was only made for 1 or 2 years. He was driving 20 miles an hour in a speed zone that has 25 miles. And he passed away within 6 seconds. 6 seconds. He was driving in his lane, a lady from the other side with a big SUV driving 60 miles an hour, head-on collision. And the cop said, he said, you know, if anything, the poor kid did not even make it to the hospital. He went straight from there. Unbelievable. Doesn't make sense. So are we going to sit here and say, well, if he was driving a Jeep, it would have been better? La hawla wa quwwata illa billah. Wallahi, Allah tests your iman. Wallahi, it doesn't matter. Allah tests the best of us. Allah tests the best of us. And these were conversations we're having. Look, why was he driving this old car for? We should have given him a better car. No. It doesn't matter if he was in a tank. That's when he had to pass away. What are you going to do? That's the third question. He says, أَيُنْقَصْ مِنْ أَجْلِكَ لَحْظَةً قَدْ قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ لَكَ. Is it possible that even 1 minute of your life will be decreased that Allah has written for you? No. So why would you be scared of somebody? What are you going to do to me? Then, after asking these 3 questions, Ibrahim bin Adham, then he said like this, Alam alhammu idan. Then why are you stressed? Kyun hai? Why are you stressed out for? Allah make us among those who understand these things and see with the sight of the heart. Clear the lens out. Zoom out of the picture a bit so you can see the entire world. And the moment you zoom out, then you start realizing that it's not just about you. It's much beyond that. It's not you're just one person on this earth, and this universe is much vaster than you are. And you start to see that pain is actually not pain. You start to see that leaving sins is not that hard. And doing good deeds is actually not that difficult because you start to see the effects of it. And once we get to that point, then it becomes easy for us to do good deeds and stay away from bad sins. May Allah bless all of you who came today, and Sheikh Rahman for inviting my brother, not me. He never invited me, by the way. So he invited my brother, and I showed up. And because I'm a good older brother. My brother told me yesterday, or day before yesterday, you have to go to Philadelphia. I said, really? No, I can't. I have a whole busy weekend. I can't go. He said, Bajan, you have to go. I said, really, I can't go. And you know what he said to me? He said, Sheikh Naman's Chima's going to be mad. Like, bahut darta hai aapse. What did you do to him? He's like, Sheikh Naman's going to be mad. He has organized. I said, you know what? I really don't want to get my fellow scholars. If it was anywhere else, I would probably cancel. I said, I'll just go. No problem. So Sheikh Rahman, thank you for inviting my brother. Maybe you can invite me next time, and I'll come back again, and you can have me formally be invited here, inshallah, or my brother, or whatever. I have a lot of good memories in the city. I have a lot of good memories in this masjid. So it was a pleasure being with you guys. I'm flying out in the morning, but inshallah we get to see each other more. We get to hear from each other more. May Allah bless you, reward you, and give you success in this world and thereafter. Before we make dua, please, 2-3 minutes with the person next to you, just talk about anything you remembered. The topic was very simple, and there was many examples, right? Topic was very simple, but many examples. You don't have to remember all the examples, but you should remember the topic. So bismillah, the sisters can do it too, the brothers can do it too. Take 2-3 minutes. Please sit with somebody. If someone's older, go to the older person. Bismillah. Bismillah. Don't talk about anything else. Don't talk about anything. Just 2-3 minute lane, just do this inshallah. No, you make dua. Dua kya karni, bas mukhtasar baat kar lete hain. Habibi, sit with him. He's older than you. Bhai, you guys, sit with them. He's older than you. Bismillah. So, Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah. Do this exercise, guys, pay attention. This exercise is very, very important. Sahaba would do this after getting up from the gathering of the Prophet ﷺ. So all of us, most of us, our intake of mawa'idh is either a Jummah khutbah or speeches, right? So I have an advice for you. Forget it. You can't come every day for salah. You should come every day for salah. But when it comes to Jummah khutbah, come 10 minutes early. Just sit down. Because you sit down with sukoon. Sit down. And trust me, Imam Shafi'i was one of the greatest scholars to walk on the face of the earth. He said, I have never sat in anyone's talk except for have benefit from that person. It doesn't matter who gives the talk. Oh, his accent is good, he can say Arabic. You will find some benefit from every person. Allah will open, if you sit with the intention of benefiting, now with the intention of criticizing, or the intention I already know, glass empty. After the talk, right away the Sahaba would sit down, Ijlisna min rabbina sa'a. They would sit, talk about it. So they can keep it fresh. Because there's a lot of information, but there's very less retention. Retention levels have dropped big time. So forgive me for putting you through this, but inshallah, through this, inshallah, we will learn. First is hearing, second is preserving, third is acting, and fourth is spreading. So retention comes before acting. You have to retain the information to act upon it. So may Allah bless you guys. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursalin. والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم حبب إلى الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلى الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث أصلحنا شأننا كله ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا طرفة عين وقل من ذلك ولا تنزع منا صالح ما أعطيتنا. اللهم لا تحرمنا خير ما عندك لشر ما عندنا. اللهم لا تحرمنا خير ما عندك لشر ما عندنا. اللهم لا تحرمنا خير ما عندك لشر ما عندنا. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلق محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
Inshallah, Jazakumullah khair, Sheikh Abdul Rahman, for taking out the time and speaking to us. Inshallah, we'll be moving towards dinner now. So if I can ask everyone that are behind the pillars to move forward. If I can ask everyone in the back that can move forward, inshallah, we'll delay Isha a little bit so that we can get dinner done, inshallah. Once again, Jazakumullah khair for Sheikh Abdul Rahman. I would humbly ask everyone that before you head out, that you recite Surah Al-Fatiha with the intent of sending the reward to Sheikh Abdul Rahim, his brother who had recently passed away. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all of his sins. And may Allah Azza wa Jalla unite them and us in Jannah as well. Jazakumullah khair.